Battle with his county council over its plans to open a footpath through his garden.
Bryan Mcnerney, the presenter of ITV's Riddles of the Road and the history man for the BBC, says the council has made a mistake in placing the route of right-of-way across his property at Banham in Norfolk, and he believes an ancient map proves him right, as Elodie Harper reports.
Their home is called the Garden of Eden. But Bryan and Kate McNerney have found there's a serpent lurking in their patch of paradise. It's this disused track, metres from their front door. The council say it's an ancient public footpath and must be reopened, a claim the McNerneys dispute.
To climb aboard at the great coaching inns.
Bryan McNerney is well known locally as a TV historian and has delved into the past to try and support his case. He says this map from the 1800s shows the disputed footpath running along the outside of his property. But, Mr McNerney says, the council have chosen to view the hedge as the footpath because the modern definitive map wrongly copied it down as a path rather than a hedge.
If someone had come here and said, "Ooh, we found that there's a 300-year-old footpath where you've planted a 30-year-old hedge," I wouldn't have been happy, but I'd have had to bite the bullet and say, oh, well, it's an ancient footpath. It's got to go in where it's always been. We can't block it. But this is an imaginary footpath that some careless surveyor drew in an office.
The McNerneys say they have nothing against walkers and regularly show ramblers around their grounds, which were a pleasure garden in the 1930s, but that the footpath would be an intrusion in their private space.
I think that anybody who has a garden, it's their space, they choose to live where they choose to live, and they choose either to live with something, as some landowners do, with footpaths running through the land. It's a choice. I chose a property that didn't have a footpath in it.
But the landowner who currently allows walkers through his land argues it's only fair the footpath is reopened, as he's had enough of ramblers traipsing through his fields.
Well, the footpath always has been through the Garden of Eden, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't continue to go through there. I mean, as farmers, we feel that we've got adequate footpaths through our properties at present, and we certainly don't need any more.
Norfolk County Council say this is the real public footpath and that they have a legal obligation to make sure that the public have right of way. They also say they have offered the McNerneys assistance in opening it to the public. Elodie Harper, Anglia News, Banham.
OK, it's just gone 14 minutes. A Norwich man's been remanded in custody accused of committing a string of sexual assaults in the city. A number of incidents were reported, including 2 on Saturday in Riverside Road and near Morrison's supermarket, and 3 on Sunday near the Mall shopping centre. 32-year-old Scott Royden Marjoram of Riverside Road in Norwich is due back in court next month, accused of 12 separate offences.
Police in Essex are looking for a car driver who pushed a woman off her bicycle. She was cycling along the B1025 at Peldon near Colchester on Saturday. The driver of a stationary Subaru Impreza reached out of the window and pushed her over. The cyclist was treated for minor injuries.
Now, at 43 stone, Shaun could barely move out of a chair.
But now the father of 2 from Norfolk is running around with his children after shedding 14 stone.
Well, he's halfway to his target, as Natalie Gray now reports.
Playing football with the kids at home in Carbrook in Norfolk is something Shaun Allen was scared he'd never do. This time last year, just walking a few paces made him huff and puff. Shaun's a Liverpool fan, so in a language he'll appreciate, he used to weigh 43 stone. That's the equivalent of 3.5 Steven Gerrards. But he's now lost 14 stone, and that's like a whole Liverpool and Spain goalkeeper, Pepe Reina.
I used to have a roasting plate, and it used to be quite big, and it'd be full to the top, gravy coming over the side. And it was so much that I couldn't get my Yorkshire puddings on it. So I used to have a second plate, where I used to have 4 ginormous Yorkshire puddings for myself.
But his real downfall was chips. He'd have them for breakfast, lunch, dinner and for a midnight snack every single day. Oh, and bags of crisps.
I couldn't get enough of them. I'd eat 12, 15 bags. If they were in the house, they weren't there for more than a couple of hours, and I couldn't stop at one bag. It had to be as many as I could fit in.
So how did he do it? By walking more, taking salsa lessons and by learning how to cook and eat properly, thanks to a programme run by his local health authority.
I think it's a perfect example of what people can do when they have a bit of support and they have someone like a health trainer and a Joy of Food trainer who widens their food horizons, gives them some ideas that they can put into practical use on a day-by-day basis.
He's the big daddy who'd like to shed a further 14 stone, so his children, Megan and Junior, grow up with a dad who's fit, not fat. Natalie Gray, Anglia News, Carbrook in Norfolk.
Well done there. Now, a swan, which has terrorised members of a canoe club in Chelmsford, has been moved to a rural spot where he won't come into contact with so many people.
Yep, the club had to seek permission from the Queen to move the swan from its home on the River Chelmer, as Tom Barton now reports.
They take their paddling very seriously at Chelmsford Canoe Club, but until recently their training has been interrupted by a particularly angry swan.
The swan was fairly vicious. It would fly at us quite a lot, sometimes head on. So I've been hit by the swan and it's quite painful. It's very painful.
Until his recent forced eviction, the swan lived on this stretch of the River Chelmer. Locals say he was so violent he'd prowl the riverbank searching for victims. The canoe club nicknamed him Hissing Sid. The last straw came when he tipped a 13-year-old girl out of her canoe and appeared to hold her under the water. The story is reminiscent of the trouble rowers on the River Cam have had with a swan nicknamed Mr Asbo. Authorities insisted Mr Asbo stay in Cambridge, but the Chelmsford Canoe Club were given permission to move Hissing Sid. Royal permission.
You had to seek permission from the Queen?
Yes, that's why we went to the Queen's Swan marker first. And he was happy to tell us that the Queen was happy for us to do this, which was a big relief. I'm not sure what we'd have done otherwise.
And this is Sid's new home. He was brought with his family to this remote gravel pit near Needham Market in Suffolk.
From a swan's point of view, not only has it got our lake, but there's the River Gipping running alongside here. There's several other lakes going up the valley, so if it doesn't like our lake, it can just wander off and onto the next lake.
It seems that Sid and the rest of his family are settling in well to rural life. Clearly the isolation of the countryside is exactly what they and the canoeists needed. Tom Barton, Anglia News, Chelmsford.
You see, they look so beautiful, don't they?
They do. Hissing Sid. Probably say he's just misunderstood. Now, one of the